Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Coding Authentically with Minecraft co-taught lesson. And the lesson that I am going to teach you today is practical coding for mega building with Minecraft education. So the story behind this lesson is I teach students with Minecraft, and I have a lot of builders in my class. And a lot of my builders weren't really interested in coding until we started to learn how we can use code to build some pretty impressive and pretty huge structures really, really fast. So today I'm going to be passing on all of the tricks that me and my students learned on to you. And we're going to put it all together and we're going to build a giant fort. So I hope that sounds exciting, and I know you are absolutely ready to go. So as we get started, I just wanted to say hi. My name is Sarah. I am a presenter here with Logix Academy, and as I mentioned, in kind of my other life, I teach students in Minecraft. So I am really excited to be here to guide you through this lesson today. What we have on the agenda for today is we're going to learn 5 key pieces of code. We're going to learn how to clear a spot for our base in a random world that we generate. We're going to learn some code to put up some defensive walls around our fort. Then we're going to learn some code to start making buildings in our fort. Then we're going to learn a little bit more advanced code to make a tower. And then I'm going to teach you one of our favorite pieces of code for repainting something into a different block. So there is a lot to do, I know, but one of the really important things to remember is that doing co-taught lessons like this one, you are in full control of the pacing. So if you ever need more time to catch up with the code that's on screen, you can always pause the lesson. You can even rewind it, or you can stop and you can come back on another day. So I know you are ready and raring to go. So we're going to start with activity 1, and we're going to learn how to use code to clear a spot for our base. So let's switch over to our Minecraft. And here we go. And I'm just going to put myself down there so that I am not so much in the way. And from here, you are going to click on play. And we're going to do things a little bit differently than you may have done it before. Down in the very bottom left-hand corner, there is this Create New button. And we're going to go there. We're going to go to Create New. So go ahead and click on Create New. And we are going to give our world a name. And this is entirely up to you. I'm going to call this Sarah's Code Test World. But you can call it whatever you would like, as long as if you are all kind of sharing world storage, you have your name on it somewhere so that you know that it is your world. And we're going to make sure that it's in creative mode because that's what we want. We're not going to worry about hostile mobs just yet. You can always change things later, but we're going to make sure that it is on peaceful. And I am just going to scroll down a little bit just to check a couple of settings. One of the settings I want to make sure is on is show coordinates. So after you have named your world, you can turn show coordinates on. And this is actually just going to help us a little bit when we get to some of our more advanced pieces of code. So we've named our world. We've turned on show coordinates. If you need some time, remember you can pause if you have to catch up. And I am going to do a couple more things just to make our lives a little bit easier as we're building. You can always readjust these later. I am going to turn always day on so that I don't have to worry about it getting dark. And I'm going to turn the weather cycle off so that I don't have to worry about it raining on my world. So that's 4 things that we've done. We've named our world. We've put show coordinates on. We've put it on always day. And we've turned the weather cycle off. Now this should be pretty much everything that you need. So once you have done those 4 things, so one last time, we named the world, we put show coordinates on, we set it to always day, and we turn the weather cycle off. Once all those are done, you are ready to hit play. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that. And it's going to load us into our world. There we go. All right, here we are. And you may be someplace completely different from where I am. And that is absolutely okay if you are. This is actually a really great spot. I like this one quite a lot. So this is going to be pretty much, I think, where I am going to end up. But from here, what you are going to need to do is you want to find a good spot for your fort. And for that, you want some land. It doesn't have to be completely flat. It has to be flat-ish. And I always like to have my fort sort of near a water source somewhere. It doesn't have to be, but you can put it by a water source if you would like. So that's what we're going to do. Just take a few seconds to fly around and find a good spot to build your fort. And again, I'm going to pretty much use this whole little bit of land that's sticking out. That's kind of the size you're looking for. So take a few seconds to find a good spot to build your fort on. And again, if you need a little bit more time, you can always pause and you can come back when you have all located your spot. But I am pretty happy here. So go ahead and do that. Okay. So again, pause if you need to, if you're still looking, but we're going to go on to our next step. We are going to choose the level that our fort is going to be built on. And we can always adjust things later if we need to. But I'm thinking that this level right here is going to be a pretty good one. So I am going to land. So I'm going to double tap my spacebar so that I have landed for now. And then now that I know that I am on the right level, I'm going to fly again. And I'm going to use my shift to lower myself down without actually coming out of flight. And that is really important because the command that I'm going to teach you to clear the land is tied to flight. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to open up our code builder, and we do that by pushing C if you're on a keyboard, or if you're on a touch screen, you're going to look for the button that looks like our agent. Our agent is our little Minecraft friend who helps us out with our code. So we're going to open our code builder. And the first time that you open up your code builder, it should look something like this. So the editor that we're going to use to make the code to talk to our agent is Microsoft Make Code. So you can go ahead and click on Make Code, and what you should see is something like this. Now, if you don't see this, if you've accidentally clicked on the wrong editor, you can fix it. What you want to do is you want to look for the Change Editor button. Now, currently in this version of Code Builder, it's going to be in this menu here, and there is Change Editor, and it just looks like a little checklist. In some versions of Code Builder, it's not in this little menu. It's actually up at the top all by itself. So you just want to make sure that you look for that icon that looks like a checklist. And if you ever get stuck in the wrong editor, you can use Change Editor to fix it and get back to that selection screen. So once again, we're going to choose our Make Code, and we're going to go ahead and load that in. And now we are going to create a whole project just for our pieces of build code. So for that, I'm going to click on New Project. So it's that big green plus. And you're going to give it a name that kind of lets you know what this code is. So for us, this is going to be building. So this is going to be our building code. So we have opened up Code Builder using C or the agent icon. We've made sure that we chose Make Code. We have created a new project, and we're calling it Building. So if you need some time to catch up, you can always pause it here. And if you are ready to keep going, you can click on the Create button. All right, so here is our code builder. I'm going to make things a little bit bigger just so you can see what's going on. There we go. So a quick orientation to Code Builder. What we have in the big gray space is our workbench. This is where we assemble our code so that it works the way that we want it to. Down the left-hand side, I like to think of these as drawers in a toolbox, and they hold our blocks of code, and they're grouped by kind of what those blocks do. So if we click on one of them, if we click on the blue one, it's going to open up, and we can see that we have all the blocks that relate to our player character. If we close that by clicking it on it again, and we click on the next one down, that's all the code that relates to Minecraft blocks. So you can click on those kind of drawers to open and close them and get the blocks that you need. Now, a lot of times if you've done code before, you use this on chat command. It means when you put something into the chat, like run, it will do whatever you've programmed it to do. For this first piece of code, we're actually not going to use that though. We're going to tie this code to us flying, and that's going to let us clear a big space of ground for our fort really quickly. So for that, we have to go into the player blocks, and you're going to find this block here that says on player walk. So we've gone into the player blocks, and we've got on player walk. And you can go ahead and you can grab that block and you can pull it out. So we have our on player walk in there now. The first thing that I'm going to do is I want this changed to fly, because it's just a lot easier to tie a lot of these commands we're doing to on player fly. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on where it says walk, and then you can see we have some other options, and we're going to find the one that says fly, and you're going to go ahead and choose that. So now we've gone into player blocks, we found that on player walk, and we've changed it to on player fly. So now we've set kind of the trigger for this code. Now we just have to tell it what to do. So for that, we're going to go into our blocks category. So go ahead and click on blocks. We're going to open that up, and you are going to scroll down a little bit, and you are going to look for this block right here that says fill with. And you're going to grab that. And once you click on it, it's all kind of grayed out because it's not part of any active code yet. We have to move it into this on player fly command. So you can go ahead and you can move it in there. Now, this piece of code that we're building right now is one that my students and I call Bulldozer. And what this is going to do is it's going to clear everything that's around us. And we're going to add a little bit of an advanced trick. We're going to make it so that it also fills in what's under us, so that we have a nice flat piece of ground to build our fort on. That's a little tricky piece, and that's why we kind of do this with flying, to make sure that we can keep our Y coordinate. That's why we put our coordinates up on screen. We want to keep that constant. If you don't, it's okay. There's ways you can fix it. But what we are going to do is you are going to change where it says fill with grass. You're going to click on that grass, and you're going to find air. It should be the second option. And what we want to do is fill everything with air that is above and around us in kind of a big box. So for that, we have from and we have to. And we have these little squigglies. And what the little squigglies on the code mean is related to where I'm standing. So right now, it's saying that when we fly, we're going to fill with air everything from no blocks away from us to no blocks away from us. And that's not what we want. We want to build ourselves a kind of a brush. And we do that by defining a square around ourselves. Now, you can get ridiculous with this. You can get really big. I don't recommend that because it's a lot harder to control the bigger your brush gets. So I will sometimes change my brush depending on what I am doing, but for now, we're going to start with a brush size of 5 on either end. So what you're going to do is where it says from, you're going to go into that first where it says 0, and you're going to change that to 5. And you're going to change the second one to 5, and you're going to change the third one to 5. And what that means is it's going to be from 5 blocks away from me on the x-axis, And that could be, let's see, where's my positions? There's the x-axis. So 5 blocks away from me on the x-axis, that's this way. Then we're going to do 5 blocks above us, and then we're going to do 5 blocks away on the z-axis. So that's half of our box. Now we want to have the other half of our box the other way. So we're going to go where it says 2 on that line, and we're going to put in -5. Not -50, that's ridiculously big. The second one you're actually going to leave. And this means that it's only going to affect from our feet and above. It's not going to affect anything below us. And then your next one, it's going to be -5. So that is going to create our box. And we can test this code out now. If you need to catch up, go ahead and pause. You can hit that pause button right now. If you're ready to test it, we're going to click on the Run button or the Start button. And without using the space bar, we don't want to go up, we just want to go around. You can see that it is now taking things away from us. So that is telling me that I might want to go a little bit higher on my Y, because I could fly up and erase those with our air painting brush, but I don't want to go up because of the piece of code I am going to add to this. So I'm actually going to modify my code, and I'm going to change from 5, 5, 5 to 5, 10, 5, and that should be pretty good. And what we just did right here was tweaking some of what we call our variables. So this is a big part of coding, testing things, seeing if it works, and then adjusting the code for what we need it to do. You might be in a place that's a lot flatter, and you might not need to adjust this variable. Or you might be in mountains, and you might need to set it really, really high. So that really all kind of depends on where you are going. But now this should erase these trees as we fly around. There we go. That's got them. All right, so we're starting to clear our land for this fort that we're going to build, and we're halfway there. But when I go over this bit here that goes down, you can see that I'm now leaving this big hole, and I don't want to have that really in the middle of my fort. That's going to be not a lot of fun to deal with. So we're going to add a second piece to our bulldozer code. So for this one, I'm actually going to, I could go back into blocks and get this block again, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and duplicate this whole block, and I'm just going to move it under there. So I've gotten a second fill with block. I did that by right clicking and duplicating, but you could go into your blocks and you could get a second one there. And you're going to decide what your ground on your fort is going to be. Now, I'm happy with just leaving it as grass. So for my second block, I'm going to set that as grass. And I'm going to adjust my brush. And the only thing that I am going to do is change the Y values. I'm going to leave the X and Z alone. I want this brush to start under my feet as I'm flying around. So it means it has to start at -1. And then you want to try and guess how deep you're going to need to fill in. And for this one, I don't think I have any like huge chasms or anything like that. So I'm going to go at -10. So from -1 to -10, from 1 block under my feet to 10 blocks under my feet, excuse me, it's going to fill in with grass. So this should be all I need for that painting. So you can go ahead and pause if you need to catch up. And in just a second, we're going to test this and we're going to clear our area for our fort. All right, so I'm going to click on Run. And let's make some Fortland. So you can see how it is now painting out with grass as we fly around here. Now here is where you want to be really careful. You don't want to completely destroy the outline of this island if you want to keep it looking kind of natural. So this is where I might shrink my brush a little bit if I want to be able to control that a little bit more. But right now I think we're doing okay. So I'm just going to keep flying around so that I am clearing all of this good space so that we can build our fort. And I know you can see that we may lose a few sheep or cows or chickens to this process, but it's okay. Once our fort's done, we can add them back in. And this is the nice thing about this is it's actually kind of erasing all of this stone so that I have a nice uniform surface too. So we're going to keep painting until you think you have enough space to build your fort. And you may be saying like, oh, but how do I know? I want to be able to fly up and check. And we can do that. We just don't want to do it while the code is active, because as soon as we fly up, because we have added that second little piece of code on, it's going to start filling in hills under our feet. And so what you can do if you want to stop doing this kind of replace code for a while is you can actually open up your code builder again, and you can break your code just by moving these blocks out. So now nothing happens when I fly, and I can fly up and I can check how I am doing with this clearing. And that is actually looking pretty good. This is a nice big space for a fort. And again, you can refine this code a little bit. You could take that bottom piece off so that you can kind of shave this off a little bit so that it's a nice kind of step rather than these big blocks. There's a lot that you can do once you're comfortable with this code to make it work the way you want it to. But I'm just going to go ahead and finish kind of clearing off this little area here. And I'm going to get this bit here. That's looking pretty nice. And I do want to kind of taper it up a little bit. So I am very carefully going to fly up a little. Okay, so you can see I'm making a little bit of a ledge now. Not making too much of one. I haven't flown up too high. I'm going to fly up a little bit more. That's going to create a little bit more of a ledge. And I wasn't very careful, so I went up a bit too much, but that's okay. I'm going to keep going. And I'm going to go up one more block, and I'm just going to come over here. So I think this is looking pretty good. This is about what I want for my fort. I can change the landscaping later. So that's the end of activity 1. So if you still need to finish, you can go ahead and pause here and finish clearing your space. If not, we are going to move on to activity number 2. And for activity number 2, we're going to make a wall to kind of enclose our fort. And then we're going to start working on the buildings of the fort. So the wall code is actually a really, really fun one. So for our wall code, we're going to go back into Minecraft. And there we go. And let's move me back down to the bottom there. All right. And we're going to go into our code. I'm going to break the old one. And we are actually going to use this piece of code right here. So breaking your fly code is really important. Otherwise, it's going to get real interesting looking really fast. But we want this on chat command because we're going to make walls using a command called wall. So I've gone in there and I have changed the word run to the word wall. And you might be saying, oh, Sarah, when you said get on player fly, I took that one and I threw it away. If that happens, it's okay. You can go back into the player blocks, and that on chat command is right at the very top. So we can always go grab it. And again, we're going to change the word to wall. So we've got on chat command wall. Now we need to get the blocks that are going to program this wall we're going to build as we're walking around. And for that, I'm actually going to take you into the advanced category. And I promise, I know it says advanced, but it's actually pretty simple. So you're going to click on advanced, and you're going to look for the category that says builder. So go ahead and open up builder, and you are going to scroll down a little bit. So there's kind of 1, 2, 3 groups of code, and you want that third group, this code block that says builder raise wall from mark. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to grab that, and you're going to pop that in there. And there's one more you're going to grab, and that one's up at the top. You want builder teleport to. So we've got builder teleport to in our builder blocks, and that one actually goes on top. So we have builder teleport to, and it's going to be 0, 0, 0. We're not going to touch that. We're actually going to leave that there. and then builder raise wall from mark. And let's see, let me move this code around a little bit so that I am not on top of it. There we go. Let's scoot that over there and there. I'm just moving around my desktop just by clicking and dragging around. So there we go. Okay, so that's it. That's all we need for building our wall. We're still going to change a few things, but we've got all the blocks. So if you need to catch up, you can pause it here and you can match your blocks to mine. If you are ready to go, there's two things you're going to have to decide. One is what kind of material you want to make your walls out of, and the second is how tall you want your walls to be. And these are going to be the walls that are protecting our fort. So I think I'd like some big wooden blocks for those ones. So I'm actually going to search for wood, and I'm going to find some, mangrove wood. That's nice. You could also look for logs. Those work really well too. But I really like the mangrove wood. I think it's a really nice block. So I am happy with that one. And this is a wall that's going to go around our fort and protect it. So I think I'm going to start with 10 blocks. I can always change that later if I want to. So I've decided what my walls are going to be, and I've decided how tall my walls are going to be. And then we get to do the fun part. So if you need to catch up, you can go ahead and pause here, decide what kind of block your walls are going to be made out of and how high they're going to be. And now, if you're ready to keep going, we can click on Start. And I'm going to go to the flat area, and I'm going to start pretty much over here. I don't want to be right up on the edge. I want to have a little bit of land around my walls, but not too much. And I am going to open up my chat by pushing Enter. And I am going to type wall, that word that we put in the on chat command. I'm going to type wall, and then that pops up. And I know it doesn't look much like a wall yet, but if I walk over here a little ways and I type wall again, check that out. It connects to where my feet are. So I can keep going around this area that we are going to protect, and I can keep building those walls, and it's going to keep connecting up with my feet. So go ahead and do that. Follow along with me wherever you are building yours. Again, keep a few blocks between the wall and the edge, which means you're going to be moving back and forth a little bit. The wall will keep connecting with wherever you are. So we are going to take the time to go and finish enclosing the space that you want to enclose with your walls. This time we can fly up if we want to check. Just remember that no matter where you land, the wall will continue from where it left off to where your feet are. So just be very careful about that one. And that's one of the reasons why we just started this brand new world. But if I was working in an older world, I always back up my worlds before I start doing this, because there is no undo button with our code. So let's keep going, keep working on yours, build your walls. There we go. Whoops, fell off there. Go over to this corner over here. There it goes. And I'm going to jog over here. Very nice. And over here. Okay, and up to this corner. Sheep, you do not want to be standing there. You are going to be full of regret. There we go. Now I am very much freehanding this wall. A lot of times, if you want to be kind of more careful and more precise, what I would usually do is I would lay out my foundation, just one block tall of where I want my walls to be. And then I would just come out and start knocking out the corners of the foundation and doing my wall code and replacing the foundation. So you can do it that way too. But just to show you this code, I am playing pretty fast and loose with it. And I am just building up just using my eyes to be about where I want these balls to be, because I'm not too concerned about straight lines with this one. This is just enclosing our entire area where our fork complex is going to be. So we're almost there. I'm going to keep going a little bit more. Come on, well, there we go. And I'm going to keep going. Nicely done. I am so close. All right. And now I am going to go all the way back over here because this is a fairly straight run. And I am going to knock up against the original pillar that I built. And now when I put in my final wall, it should connect up and close the circle. And what I'm doing to get the word back really quickly without having to type it in is just using the up arrow on my keyboard. It will put in the last thing that you typed for you. There we go. And now we have our enclosed walls. And I am going to knock a hole in for a door. We could build a nice gate there later, but that's going to help me know kind of where the entrance to my fort is. I'll probably put one in on the other side around about here as well. But that is our fort wall. Now we are ready for the next part of the activity. So if you need more time to build up your walls, you can go ahead and you can do that. And if you are done that, if you have paused and come back, we are going to go on to our next part using code to make a building. So we are going to make, I've been collecting eggs as we go. We're going to make a big kind of rectangular building. And before I figure out where we're going to start with this code, there is a little bit of an experiment I want to do just to make our lives a little bit easier. I want to figure out what direction it is going to build in. So we're going to build a little piece of a test code, and then we're going to get a little bit more serious about our building. So for building our test code, we are going to get another on-chat command, and we're going to pull that in. And I'm just continuing to add these commands into our building project. It means that while I've got this code running, I can go back to any one of these codes that I need to. So this one is going to be our, let's say, test. And we are going to go into our blocks. And we're going to come back to our old friend fill with, and we're going to bring that one out. But we're going to be using it a little bit differently than we did with our, oops, sorry about that. It didn't switch back to my Minecraft. All right, so just to go over, we have gone back into our code, and we have gotten a new chat command. We have gone back into blocks, and we have gotten a new fill with block. So that's what we have here, and we changed run or jump to test. So with this one, with this test, we're just going to build a really, really small 1 by 1 by 1 building. And we're going to do that so we can see kind of the direction that this thing is going to build. And then we know kind of where to stand to get our building pointing in the right way. So I'm leaving it as grass for now, and all I'm going to do is I am actually going to change the first line to 2, 2. I'm going to leave the second line as it is, and I'm going to leave it as fill with grass because it's pretty easy to undo once we know kind of where this is going. So if you need to catch up, you can pause, and I am going to scoot myself down there so that it is a little bit bigger. And we are going to go ahead and I am going to run this just so I can test and see what direction this code is going. So I'm going to test, and okay, so it looks like it's going in that direction. So if I want a building to fill up this space, I have to be in kind of this corner of that building. And I can actually confirm that that's what we're doing by running it again, and it should just refill. Yep. Oh, no, it's going the other way. I'm glad I did that. Okay. So it's going back that way. So if I break this, and I stand here, what happens if I run it again? Okay, that's better. That's where I want to be. Okay, so I'm in this corner of the building. So it means if I want the building to fill up this space, I kind of have to be back here. So that's why we ran that test. It helps you figure out where to stand so that you are in the right corner of the building that you're going to make really, really big. So now that we've done that, I'm just going to get rid of this because now I know which direction my building is going. And I am going to build our great big building. So again, if I was doing this for real, I would be much more careful about this, but I want to get kind of an idea of how many blocks I have here. So I am just going to stand there, and I'm going to run over here. Okay, so that's minus 28. Okay, so I want it to be about maybe 20 blocks along the x-axis and maybe about 30 blocks on the z-axis. And the way that I'm doing that is I'm just looking at my position up in the top. So when I'm here, that's actually a good number, 50. If I move this way, so there's 40, 30, that's 20. So there's 20 blocks between minus 50 on the x-axis and minus 30 on the x-axis. That's how I did it. It's just quick math with your coordinates, your position up at the top left. So 20 by 30, I think, is what my building is going to be because I want this to be the main building of this complex. So how do we build it? Well, we go back into that test and we change some of our variables. So let's change this to building. All right. And we're going to choose the material to make our building out of. Now, this could be the final building material, but if you know you're going to be using the same building material for a lot of your buildings, one of the things that I recommend is choosing a block that is completely ridiculous that you're going to replace later when I show you the final piece of code. So every building is going to be its own block that you would never use for building normally. And that lets you really kind of refine the building with code. It lets you get rid of anything that is wrong. If you need to erase something, if it's not the same as any block around it, it's going to be much, much easier. So I am going to initially build this building out of, let's see, something I would never use for building normally. Let's make it out of diamond blocks. Okay. So I've got my ridiculous building block to start with. And I said I wanted my building to be 20 by 30 blocks. So from is going to be 0, 0, 0. It's going to be where I'm standing. And then 2, I said it's going to be 20 blocks along the x-axis. We're going to put 20 in there. Your number might be a little bit different depending on your space. So if you need to, you can do that quick math with your positions to figure out about how many blocks you want that building to be. And then we are going to choose how high that building is going to be. And our walls are 10 blocks high, but I want this building to be super impressive. So I'm going to go 12 blocks high for this building. You may even go taller if you want. That is okay. You can always do it again to build a second floor. And then I said 30 blocks along the z-axis. So there's a couple things we're going to change still. We're not done yet. But if you need to get your numbers in, you can pause here to get your dimensions of your building in. So the second thing that I actually want to do is I would like to have this building not be a step up from the ground to get into. I want the floor to be at the same level as the ground. Depending on your Minecraft building, sometimes you will have steps up into the building. That's just very much a design choice. But because I want this to start under where I am. I want it to start at the level of the grass. I'm actually going to change the first 0 to a -1. So this means it's going to start the building under where I am. So we're almost done now, but there's one more thing that we want to change. So right now, if we ran this code as it would create a solid block of diamonds. And then we'd have to hollow out the inside, which is not very helpful. But if we go to where it says replace, you can actually create a hollow rectangle. So that is actually going to delete anything that's in the way as well. There's also outline, which is really similar, except it's going to leave anything that's in there. It's not going to replace it with air. So either one of those will work. I'm going to go with hollow for now. And that is about ready to run. So if you need to pause, you know the drill, go ahead and pause. And if you are ready to create your building, we can go ahead and we can click on start and we can put in building and we can hope that we got it correct. Boom. And if we knock a hole, there is the inside of our building. We can see that the floor is at the correct level as well. So we've got it. We have our building. All right. So if you need a little bit more time, go ahead and pause until you have your building ready to go. But what we're going to do next is I'm going to show you an even cooler piece of code to make a tower next to your building. So pause if you need to, and if you are ready, let's make a tower. All right. So for our tower, we're going to go to where we have some space. We're going to come over here. And my tower is going to be a round tower. And I want it to be intersecting with the corner of our building. I don't want it to be going completely in there. I don't want the center of our tower to be here. I want the center of our tower to be out a little bit. So I'm actually going to just put a block there so I can mark for myself where the center is. That means if I ever need to adjust the code, it's really easy for me to find the center again. So now that I have marked it, I've come in a straight line away from the corner. You can see 1, 2, 3, that is a straight line. We're going to build our tower code. So we're going to scoot down on our workbench a little bit so we can see. We're going to get a new chat command block. We are going to bring it in. And we're going to call this one tower. All right. And we're going to go back into our advanced blocks. So if you've lost them, you have to click on advanced to open it up. And we were in builder before, but now we're going to go to shapes. And we are going to look for the block that lets us build a circle. So we've got that circle block. We're going to bring it in there. And let's see, let me move it up and over a little bit so it's a bit easier for you to see and my face isn't covering it. There we go. All right, so we have tower. We went into our shapes category and we found the circle block. Now what this is going to do is it's going to draw a circle around us, which is fine. But it means every time we want to build the level of our tower, we would have to run the code again. And depending on how tall we want our tower to be, that is going to get really boring really fast. So I'm going to show you a trick you can use to have Minecraft actually change the height of your tower for you. And for that, you're going to go to your toolbox at the side, and you're going to click on where it says variables. And we're going to make a variable. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a variable called height. Or you could call it tall, or you could call it tower, whatever you want to call it. Just remember what you call it. That's going to be really important. So I'm going to click on OK. And I'm going to show you one more time. We went into where it said variables at the side. We clicked on make a variable. And you can see now that I've made height, we have a couple of things that we can play with here. So you're just going to make a variable and you're going to call it something that tells you it's the height of your tower. So we went into variables, make a variable, height. So if you need to do that, you can pause here. But what I am going to do is I'm actually going to go into the category called loops. This is our repeat. This lets us do things over and over and over again. And if you scroll down a ways, now that we have created that variable, we have this loop block here. It says for index from 0 to 4. And you are going to grab that block and you're going to stick it right at the top of our tower code. So we went into loops, scroll down, grab for index, and drag it in. Then you're going to take your circle block and you're going to put that into the loop. So this is telling us that for whatever height of the tower you're on, you're going to run this circle command again. Okay, now we're going to come back to that now that we have the base of our code. There are a couple of things that we're going to do now. We're going to choose our ridiculous block to build our tower, because remember, we're not on the final stage yet. We're still building the ridiculous blocks to make it easier if we have to make changes. So I'm going to choose another ridiculous block to build our tower out of. And I've used diamond, so let's use emerald blocks. That's not a block I would normally use in building, so I don't have to worry about interfering with anything else I've built. Okay, our center is going to be on 0, 0, 0. We're going to be standing at the center of the tower. That's why I made myself this little spot here. Our radius of our tower, you get to choose the radius. Now 5 is going to take us just into where this building is because we're 3 blocks away from it now. I think 5 is pretty good for a tower, so I'm going to leave it there, but you can change it to whatever you want. Don't make it too big. Again, you can always erase things and try again. I'll show you the erase command when we get to our final activity. But here's 2 really important things you have to change. Right now, it says it's building the circle around the x-axis. So if we ran the code as it was, it would build a circle like a tunnel above and below the ground where we're standing. We don't want that. We want the tower to go up. So what we have to do is change around to y. So it's going to build the tower around the axis that goes up and down. And then we want to be able to be in our tower. So you have to choose if it's going to be hollow, which means it will delete these blocks that are here as part of this wall, or if you want it to be outline, which means it'll leave these blocks. That's totally up to you, depending on what you want the inside of your fort to look like. I'm going to go outline so that I can make a little bit more of a doorway. And we'll see if I like it. I can always redo it later and come back and stand here and change it to hollow. But I think we're almost ready. But the last thing we have to do is figure out the height of the tower and give the code what it needs to do that. So I am going to go back into variables one more time. And you can see that you actually have this option right here for height. Remember that? So we're going to take height and we're going to drag it over into the y value of our code. So let's flip that around so you can see it a bit better. There we go. Okay, so I've just gone into variables. I've grabbed the height variable and I moved it into that middle. So that's going to control how high our tower is going to go. That means that I have to match what's up here to what's in here. So we're going to click on that little drop-down menu and we're going to change that to height. Okay, so we've got height, height, good, good. And then we have to choose how high our tower is going to be. So right now it's going to be 4 blocks tall, and that's no good. So I'm going to change that to 20. I think that's going to be a pretty good size for a tower. And that's really all you need to do for this one. So creating the variable is the tricky part. Otherwise, we'd have to go up a block and run the code again, and then go up a block and run the code again, and then go up a block and run the code again, and that's going to get really boring. But when we use that height variable, it lets us choose the height of the tower, and we could build more towers of different heights using the same code. So if you need to catch up and make your code match mine, you can go ahead and you can pause now. but I am going to run this code. Cow, you do not want to be here, and we'll see if I did it right. I may not have. I haven't run this code in a really long time, but that's the fun part of coding, and it's easy to fix when I show you the final piece of code that I'm going to show you. So let's go ahead and build this tower. I'm going to click on Start. I am going to put tower and cross our fingers. There we go. Yes. All right. So the one thing that I'm going to caution you about, it's building the tower floor by floor around where I'm standing. So you don't want to move while the code is running, because that's going to change the center. It's going to change where it's building the circle from, and you could end up with the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So you want to stand still until it is finished building the tower. And because we chose outline, these blocks stayed here. If we chose hollow, it would erase these blocks. So if you decided, oh, I didn't really like this, it's a little bit smaller than I hoped it would be, I want to make it a little bit bigger, I could actually change this to hollow, change my radius to 6, and I could run the code again. And it should, if I did this right, it should delete the old one. You don't have to do this. This is just if you want to. Yep, see, it's deleting the old one as we go, and it's filling it in. So hollow will delete anything that was inside. It also deleted these grass blocks. Outline will just build your tower, but it won't delete anything inside of it. So that's a nice little trick for if you wanted to change what you had built and make it bigger. You can change it to hollow, and you can rebuild it. So I just have to wait for it to finish. So you can go ahead and finish off your tower. And then I am going to go on to our final piece of code. So let's build up this tower and keep building. And this is another one of those reasons why I always make it out of a block that I don't usually build in, because if I know that I've done something wrong, it makes it a lot easier to spot where that building is once I start getting a bit more complicated and running it in to other buildings like this one. So again, if I wanted to make a door into the other building, just knock this out here and here, and we can go in. All right, so if you need to catch up, you can go ahead and do that. And then we're going to go on to our last piece of practical code, which is probably, I think, the most fun. So our last piece of code that we're going to take a look at is repainting. So once we have done our buildings in our really weird and wacky blocks, the repaint is going to let us change what those blocks look like really, really quickly. And if you need to erase something, you can also use the repaint as an eraser. So let's switch back over into Minecraft, and I'm going to butt myself down there. Okay, and I'm going to come out of my tower. All right, so let's say the first thing that we want to fix is our big square building. We're going to hop back into our code builder. And this is, again, why we kind of do all of this here. So here was my bulldozer code. And one of the things that we can do, which is very similar, instead of fill, is on player fly, we can go into our blocks. And instead of fill with, if you keep scrolling, you find this block, replace with grass when block is grass. So if we bring that out and we pop that into our on player fly, this is our repaint code. So this is going to change a specific block into a different block. And again, this is why I chose those wacky blocks, because it means if I want to repaint my tower, if I built both of these in stone to start with, it would be really hard to repaint just the tower and not the building next to it. But because I use these weird blocks, it's going to be much, much easier. So let's start with, again, this big building. And let's say I want this big building to be a certain type of stone. So I am going to replace with, and let's pick our nice type of stone that we want to use for this building. Let's say we want to use chiseled stone bricks. Those can be nice, or just regular stone bricks as well. Make sure you don't choose infested stone bricks though, because that will destroy your fort. So I'm going to choose stone bricks. So replace with stone bricks when the block is, and I'm going to search for our diamond. So when the block is diamond, replace with stone brick. And then we just have to create our brush size. So again, you can adjust this if you want to do kind of finer detail or bigger detail. I don't have anything else made of diamond, so I don't have to worry about making the brush too big. So I'm going to go with our 5, 5, 5. And this time, because I don't have to worry about below the ground, I can actually do -5. Actually, I can leave it at 0 because there is something else I want to show you. And let's change that to -5. Okay, so here is our repaint brush. Replace with stone brick when block is diamond. Now, if you needed an eraser, instead of replacing with stone brick, you would just replace with air when block is diamond, and that would erase your building. So if you ever make a building and you don't like it, you can use this paint command as an eraser and replace with air. And again, that's why I use the weird blocks for each building, because if I had a whole bunch of wooden buildings, I'd run the risk of erasing anything made of wood. But if I've made one building out of diamond and one building out of emerald, it's much easier to just erase the one building I didn't like. So if you are ready, we can run this, and we are going to repaint as we fly. So we are now repainting this building as we fly around it. And if we can find just about the right spot, we go up and down. And again, if we wanted to do more, we can make the size of our brush bigger, but this is pretty good, I think. And again, this gets it done really fast. Now, the reason why I left that bottom one at 0 is because if we go in here, we did have that floor. So if we wanted to change the floor, we could duplicate. We could replace with, let's choose a good block for our floor. Let's choose a wood block. Choose a plank, rather. That's better. Ooh, I'm going to use cherry planks. Those are pretty. And for this one, we're going to just change -1, -1. So it's only going to change the block under our feet and nothing else. So that is going to change our floor as we fly around. There we go. And because I'm not flying up, it's not changing the walls. So I can keep getting the bits of walls that I don't have until I've got that floor in. And I see that up there. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to break that part of the code so that it's just the walls, and then I can fly again. And let's finish that off. There we go. All right. So we have repainted this building into our brick. And then if we want to repaint the tower, we just do the exact same thing, but we are going to replace the diamond with emerald. And we're going to change our stone brick to, let's use a log. Let's use the cherry log. Let's keep going with the cherry theme. So again, you can just play around with the brush, what you're replacing with. You can change the brush size by changing from and to. Now, if I fly around, I can repaint the tower without repainting my building over here. And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll keep duplicating things and I'll keep my paint brushes around because I can see that I've missed a couple spots on this building. And if I had kept my paintbrush around, I could just pop that one back in. So I could pop it out and I could pop it back in. But that is basically how repainting works. So if you need more time, you can go ahead and pause and finish repainting. But those are all of the secrets that I have to show you. Those are all of the really major tricks that my world builders learn to help make their builds go so much faster. Because if they can get the walls up really quick, it allows them time to focus on the really cool details to show off whatever it is that their build is all about. So I hope that you had a really good time. I hope that you have learned something new and that you can use this to create some really big, spectacular builds really, really quickly. You're going to connect with your teacher to find out what you need to do next. And I hope that we see you next time. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye.